we have some video that we will be playing, but it would be nice to hear how you are living, your living situation at the moment with the crisis in your dojo, and how you are managing that with your students.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, several of the people on this page know that I live in a dojo, and I've lived here in the dojo for 16 years, and with my wife, Kate, and son, Cormac. And when we started to kind of, this whole crisis or COVID started to come about, there were 3 people here. There's Courtney and Hario and Melissa, who all kind of decided to stay here and to train. And they're all not working very much. Hario is working, but I keep basically the regular schedule that I did. It's a little bit modified, but there's about a 2-hour session in the morning with sitting and Aikido, and then there's usually an hour to hour and a half noon class, and then there's a 2-hour block at night with weapons and Aikido and more sitting or misogi. So we're just kind of keeping that schedule. There's really, as most of you know, nowhere to go. There's nothing else to do, and so it has been a certain kind of creative time for training, to think about, when you're just training with mostly just 4 people over and over, what to do. So, for example, quite often in the morning schedule, we'll sit for Zazen for an hour, and then we will pick a technique. I'll pick an attack Shomanuchi, and since it's only 4 or 5 of us, we run through every single technique in the hour. And it's just without me really teaching so much, because everybody's at a certain level that they can do the technique. So it's almost like a test practice every morning.
Wow.
So it's been a
wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, it has been. It's a little bit, it can be lonely sometimes because it's just us, but at the same time, I'm thankful that I still have the practice to be able to do. So at the same time, our dojo is really built for a lot of people, so it's strange that the rest of the people aren't there. So.
And are you doing anything on Zoom with them?
I'm doing one conditioning class on Saturdays, which is Aikido conditioning, which some of the people on this call did today. I think it's somewhat rigorous. I was exhausted after it, but that's because I'm doing everything. And then I'm teaching one Sabori class a week on Zoom. And then 2 of our Zazen sessions are on Zoom. And then I'm doing like a Q&A class where people can come on and ask just technical questions.
Oh, that's great.
Right. So those kind of 5 things is what I'm doing. I don't know if I could do any more than that. It's not my thing, really.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I realized I didn't really introduce you, but I don't think I need to, Robert. So.
That's fine. Everybody, I think, knows me.
I think we know everybody. Everybody knows you.
Yes.
So shall we, we're going to show some video of Chiba Sensei teaching and using you for Ukemi in the 2004 summer camp. So, hopefully that will trigger some questions from everybody. So we can just watch, and then if anybody wants to come in with a question, we can pause, or we can do slow motion. We can look at something again. And yeah.
Okay.
So. Oh, that's right.
We're talking about New Orleans.
Could you just do it normal speed, Garrett? Because, can you hear me? Maybe I've muted myself.
No, I can.
Because this is a little bit further into it is Robert taking a chemi.
Yeah, do you want me to fast forward it to that point?
Yeah, I thought I put a particular time there.
Yeah.
Oh, this is, yeah, this is okay. It'll be,
I think it was at 5 minutes or so. There we go.
right. It goes for 5 minutes.
Oh, we just missed a little bit.
Yeah, it's before this. Actually, it was right after where you stopped it.
Okay, of course.
There he is. So,
We'll just continue from here then. Sorry, I don't have the exact starting location in front of me.
Sensei's doing the same thing with
Yeah, Frank and
all his ukes. Let's do normal speed, Garrett, now.
Yeah, this is normal speed. I could speed it up or slow it down.
Oh, I guess I've got a very blurred image. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is.
that's it.
I'm also experiencing it as like choppy, sort of.
right. Me too.
I could try to connect to my Wi-Fi. I'm on my hot. Avoid all the noise in the house.
Well, I can say that this is very difficult to come.
Yes. I was wondering what your
Sensei's doing.
experience was taking that ukemi.
Well, you have to be very connected. You know, you have to really give a strong grab, but at the same time, he's bringing you up straight up, and so you have to be able to come straight up from your center. You have to really use your legs.
Yeah.
And most people don't push in. You have to really push in, and then you can come up. But even then, it's very. He's doing it so fast.
Is that a little bit better quality?
Yeah, it is a little bit better.
Okay.
Still jerky though, if this is a normal speed.
See, Alan, now you know where I get it from, right? Alan's laughing. He's seen me do this stuff all the time.
What an expression on your face when you were getting up.
Yes, yes. That's Carl.
The way he uses the weight of his body from his center
Right.
all the time.
Yeah, I think the thing to really look at is that his shoulders and his hands, even though they're very heavy, they're not, he's not raising his shoulders. You know, he's really, like you said, really using his center.
Mm.
His upper body is really, I'm sorry, I'm distracted by Carl getting killed there. Carl is he's very limber, you know, like we're both limber, but he's, for a person that's really big, I've never met somebody that soft. It's kind of strange, you know. He's very flexible.
It seemed like Sensei couldn't get enough out of him.
Yeah, yeah. And it's such a great extension in his hands. And that's like Melissa, right, Alan? She's that flexible.
Yeah, we have someone like that in our dojo too.
Yeah.
Not to mention names.
Yes. There's Mike. Mm-hmm.
If anyone wants to ask Robert Sensei a question, they can just come in, just unmute yourself and oh.
I have just seen this Sensei being okay here. That did he ever attack you guys on full force, and how did it feel for you? So you can see when he nugget how everything is there. But persons like that give their attack their full force. So how did you handle that? How did it feel?
Sensei took ukemi for me maybe 3 or 4 times. A couple times when he was showing a technique like koki hole, and it was okay. But the times that I remember, well, so this kind of ukemi, meaning that, like, you know, he's going slow, right? It's fine because he's trying to demonstrate the ukemi.
Yep.
But there were a couple times, for example, one time we were together. I used to travel with him quite a bit, and those are the most intense times. Even though summer camp and living in the dojo were intense, the more intense times were when I would travel with him. So sometimes we would travel together to go to a seminar, and then we would go fishing in between, and then go to another seminar. And the whole time I was with him. So one time like that, I was in Chicago with him, and he wasn't happy with the way that I was doing the technique, and it kind of like taking ukemi, and it was building over like kind of a 10-day period. And so we were doing a technique where he attacks with shinai, and you come with your shinai under, and then you get behind them and cut them down in riminage. And that time was very scary because he took the shinai and he tried to just split my head open, and I tried to get behind him. I don't think that Maureen Brown has that footage. And but at that point I was really kind of, I'd had enough. I don't know how to say it of the traveling. It was a very intense situation. And I really tried to cut Sensei and flatten him down to the mat as much as I could. So it was probably one of the better techniques I did because I really didn't care about hurting him or I wasn't thinking. I was just trying to cut him down. But it's frightening. That's what I can say. There was never a class, especially I would say in weapons, that was not difficult for me with Sensei. Body art, he tended to use me more for body art, although he did use me for weapons, and he tended to use, when I was there, Manolo more for weapons. So I took quite a lot of body art with him, but I did take some weapons, and those are always very challenging situations.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
We have some of that weapons footage actually from this particular camp. We're going to do later, but this is so cute to see Sensei with this little boy.
Yeah.
I don't know whose child he was. Do you remember?
I think that's Bob Burns' son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Bruce.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. He looks kind of miserable there. He was told to close his eyes and not open them. He's like, no, turn around. Yeah. That's good. Sensei was great with little children. Yeah, mostly, I think. Mostly, except his own, maybe. Yes, yes. Well, Garrett, we could go on to the next part. It's like the next one is disc 3, part 3.
Okay, let me find that.
Yeah.
While you guys are queuing that up, Robert, a couple things. It's been really interesting to hear some of the other senior members, the Shihan, about their early days with Sensei and their perspective and their retrospect. So that'd be great to hear maybe after the videos or whatnot. And I'd also be interested in understanding what your conditioning classes are like. I don't know if you have those on a link or something. I can send you the link, definitely. I can maybe just put it on a Facebook and whoever wants to join for next Saturday at 12. Yeah. So you mean regarding my feelings about Sensei, or like what I've done? No, like the early days, the history, how you met him, and kind of the years after, probably as Ukadeshi, and it's just been real interesting to hear how those times were for the different students that are now our seniors and Shihans and whatnot. Well, maybe some of you know, most of you may know, but I started Aikido when I was 12, and I started in San Diego County under Gerald Gimmel Sensei, who's a Marine, who's Crane Sensei remembers him. Yeah. I know Gerald Gimmel. I trained with him for a few years. Okay, so he was my first teacher when I was 12 years old. And okay. And at that time, he was going, back and forth to see Sensei, and anyways. And then when I trained with him when I was kind of like middle school through, I guess, high school a little bit. And then when I went to college, I was at West LA Institute. And then after I left there, I moved to New York and I trained with Juba Sensei. So of course, through all that time, when I was training with all those people, I saw Sensei, but after I was in New York for about a year and a half, training in Tensei with Juba Sensei, I went back to San Diego to live in the dojo with Sensei, with Juba Sensei. And then from then on, I would say after about 10 or 12 years is I used to travel with him as much as I could. So I went to Japan with him, and France and England and all over the East Coast.
and some places in the West Coast too. So I was in the dojo as proper Uchideshi for about a year and 2 months or so. And then thereafter, my experience was through these trips that I was talking about earlier, where I would, he would come back for the East Coast, do one seminar in one place, whether it was at my place or somebody else. And then he would arrange, or have me arrange, to take him fishing in Boston at one of his old students' houses, whose Marjorie, her name is Marjorie. She was a student of his in London, and her sons actually trained with me. That's, for those of my students who are on the call, that's Sam and Max. So anyways, I would go and take him fishing, and then we would go to another a seminar, right? So, for me, the thing that I remember the most, I would say about Sensei, is that our relationship is really very traditionally Japanese. I grew up very traditionally in a traditional Italian Catholic family, and Sensei never really spoke to me, and I didn't really speak to him. Like sometimes I'd be with him for 10 days and it was just tense. And I mean, I would ask him what he wanted for dinner or where we were going or something like that, but it was never, I was never relaxed around Sensei. It was a very intense, I would say difficult relationship, in the sense that there was a tension, a pressure always there. So it was never any kind of relaxation in my relationship with him. Now I know other people had different relationships, but that was mine, For example, Manolo was around a lot of the time when I was around too, and he had he used to talk to Sensei about many things. I was always completely surprised. And Sensei and I never said anything to each other. It was mostly, once in a while I would ask him a question, but it was as if there was not really the opening to speak to him in a way for us, unless it was something really, really crucial, right? So any kind of casual matter, there was nothing to really talk about. But that being said, whenever I would go home to San Diego to see my parents, I would stop by and see him at the house, and we would have tea together or something like that. But again, we wouldn't really talk much.
Yeah, interesting.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. That's definitely interesting. Sounds like it was a really intense period.
Yeah, it was an intense period. I'm thankful for it, and I think it's not many. Different people had different experiences with him, and that's kind of what I had to go through up until really to the end of his life.
Sensei.
Yes, Heather.
Do you think that was because of something he saw in you that he felt he needed to do in relation to you, or that was his personality, or that you brought out in him, or what do you think explains that?
I think that's a good question. I think definitely it's my karma and my way to be. I was raised very seriously and really just never to speak to your elders is kind of how I was raised, in a certain kind of so kind of that formula went very well with a traditional Japanese background. But also Sensei used to feel very comfortable around not talking to people. That was actually, so in some ways it wasn't always a negative thing. It was just that a lot of the times that was his default. He didn't like to speak, and then I also think that, there was something that I had to move through, which in some ways for me culminated in 2012, which was a crazy. Were you there, Crane Sensei? I can't remember, in that camp in the East Coast that I ran.
Oh yes, the summer camp then.
Right.
Right.
So that was Sensei was ill then and already had the tumors and everything, and it was a very explosive camp. And in a way, I had a conversation where he was very intense with Manolo and me and George Sensei over testing. He didn't agree with our decision that we were conducting a test. And in any event, a lot of people saw the events in that that camp as Sensei was out of control in a certain way and that he was too hard on us. But for me, it was something like it cracked something in me, and in a good way. Like I finally kind of like, I don't want to say spoke back to Sensei, but in a way, I needed maybe all that pressure, all that time to let it go. I don't think everybody else needs to go through that kind of intense, rough situation that I went through. But it's definitely was part of my character. And so he did treat other people very differently. That was kind of the remarkable thing about Sensei is he saw what different people needed, and some people he never spoke to, some people he spoke to quite a bit, some people he could be lighthearted with, and some people he was absolutely not. So I think, yes, it depended on where I was at, probably where he was at too. Yeah.
I think that's what made him such a brilliant teacher, that with each person, it was a relationship with you and him, and he absolutely responded to who you were and gave you what he thought you needed.
That's right. Yeah, I think he thought very consciously, very carefully about that.
Yeah.
And he was also a person that was absolutely not afraid to push the envelope and be on the razor's edge. And if that meant that some students would leave, he was okay with that. He was kind of brilliant with that, you know. He was a master at being able to push the exact right button in your karma, your personality.
Yeah. Garrett, can you hear me, Garrett? This wasn't quite what I thought we were going to be watching.
This is good.
Is Garrett there? Garrett, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, sorry about that. So
is this disc 3, part 3?
This is disc 3.
It should be Kiritoshi, and it was 8 minutes into this. It was the same summer camp, 2004.
Let me share my screen again so you can see what I'm going through. So 2004, disc 3. Why am I not seeing it? Maybe
it's disc 3, part 3.
Yeah.
So go up to, oh, wait a minute, where's part 3?
Maybe it's mislabeled.
Part 3 is missing. I looked at it today. How strange.
And it's 2004?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, how strange. Didn't get moved anywhere, did it?
Do you happen to have it in front of you?
Well, not unless I go online and...
Right, okay.
We should have the same thing though.
Maybe it's not tagged correctly.
Well, maybe if you go fast forward ahead here and just see if Sensei goes inside, because it is about weapons. But there is a section where it was at the end. Oh, how strange.
Yeah, this is a Q class.
Yeah, I know that there was a part, I was looking at it this morning, where he's doing Kiritoshi with you. And also with Manolo, and really working on the weightedness of the sword and cutting down. And
let's see if perhaps it's in this one.
Yeah, that's strange. Oh yeah, maybe this. What is this one? Part 2. Yeah, go further forward though.
This is a heavy boken he's using, I remember.
Yeah.
Does this look familiar, Sensei?
No, further. He'll be working with ukes.
Sure.
So it'll be another class. This probably was just a very foundational class. No, it was that. Where did that go then? That's how strange. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll look at it in my...
No, we already saw that.
Well, let's look at the foundation work then of that one, because
Could it be any of these real quick? Maybe at different years, summer camp?
no, it was definitely the same summer
Okay.
camp.
Okay.
But if this looks like a weapons class.
Whichever you'd like for me to bring up. Sorry, I'm clicking a little fast. So I can filter on the left here.
Go a little forward with this one then.
With this one, okay.
Let's
Sure.
see if he's actually at the beginning of a class.
Yeah.
I don't recognize this one.
This is in Sonoma? I don't know.
Sonoma, maybe.
Maybe go forward.
Well, I'm going to.
You want me to see if he's working with individual students, right?
Right. Well, it looks like he, yeah. Here we go.
This is Nolo, so let's see. This is probably the beginning of Sano Touch, I think.
Let me mute.
Oh, it's not what I wanted to watch though.
This is great exercise. This is what we do all the time here. These Boken Owasewaza and into Sano Tachi, really.
Okay, if I can, I'm going to stop my video and go online here. See if I can watch it.
Everybody knows this kata, right? Take it. If you watch his feet, this sensei was master at this, like really doing Ushiro Tenkan and then sliding forward. You see right there, back, and then forward. And so the thing that I notice about this is that what most people don't do in the execution of this technique is they step back and then they step back. And so their distance is always wrong, right? They're not sliding forward at the end. This is Kimasubi no Tachi. This is a good video for you to study, Alan, you and Scott especially. Well, everybody, but I don't know what camp this is.
It's not video again.
And maybe 2009.
I can tell Garrett in a minute that I can take. They're talking about this now, but I can hear you.
I don't know if it's 2009. Let's see, 2009, maybe, because 2009 was the year.
2010, it looks like. San Marcos.
San Marcos. Oh, that's the one I was thinking of. That's it's like about like 45 minutes north of San Diego, maybe.
Yeah, that was in San Marcos.
Yeah, I think that was my first camp.
Okay. Is that your first camp, Scott?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll wait for a good place.
I recognized the gym. That's why I was thinking I'd been there.
2010.
Okay. Garrett, I have found that other video. I don't know the summer camp.
Okay.
We could switch over when you finished
Sure.
with this one. I don't know why you didn't have
Whenever you're ready, if you want to share your screen, you want me to just stop and then you can continue on?
Yeah, does anyone have anything more to say about this, that they wanted to talk more? So I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Do we want to continue? Oh, wait a minute, this will stop other screen sharing.
Yeah, I have a question maybe in the meantime, Robert Sensei.
Yeah.
Maybe you could talk about just maybe your experience with Misogi breathing, how you came to get exposed to that, what your experience has been, how it integrates and into your Aikido and your just general practices and value and stuff like that.
Wow, that's about it. A month-long answer.
Yeah.
It's a good question. Well, briefly, as some of you know, Chiba Sensei he lived at Ikukai Dojo for a year when he was a young man, and therefore he encouraged some of us to go, of which I was one of the people, one of the earlier ones to go. I was like the third person to go there. I spent a month in Japan in 2002, living at that dojo and learning Misogi, the introduction to it. So it was only, well, to be honest, it was only after I went to Ichikukai and I saw the kind of strong breathing that Sensei, that was done there, that I understood Sensei's breathing a bit. Most of the instructors in Hombu Dojo have either gone to Ichikukai Dojo or they have gone to Tempukai Dojo. And Tempu Nakamura was a man who was quite ill when he was younger, and he traveled the world to try to find a cure to his tuberculosis. He ended up in India and learning certain breathing methods, a type of Raja Yoga, in which then he brought back to Japan and modified. So all of these kind of breathing exercises that we do in Aikido, or these things, these are all from Tempukai. So either one of the instructors generally have a kind of a knowledge of breathing from Tempukai or from Ichikukai. And I would say that for me, it's absolutely integral to have an understanding of breathing. You can come to that understanding through Zazen. It's difficult because, at least outwardly, that kind of breathing is not taught in Zazen. But it is a part of Rinzai Zen tradition, certain types of deep breathing. And once you start to understand that, then you understand that when you're throwing somebody, or exactly what Sensei's doing in all these Kiryotoshi videos, it's explosive breathing. And then there's also very kind of continuous long breathing. So you use different kinds of breathing in relation to different kinds of techniques. And I would say, to be honest, Sensei once said very publicly, he said that if you're not doing Zazen, you're not doing my Aikido. So that's for those of you that don't like Zazen. But that's just, I think, the reality that they're totally, the way he saw Aikido, the way he saw training, that Misogi and Zen and these breathing practices were not different whatsoever from Aikido. But I can definitely write more about that, Rob. I think it's a long answer. It's kind of my short of So I guess this video is Kiritoshi, maybe?
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah,
Yes,
so,
this is Kiritoshi.
So I guess to further comment of Rob's question. Right, so if we pause that for a second and say,
Just before, when at the end.
just right now is fine. So
Okay.
just to kind of come back to Rob's question, the element of breathing here is that the breath is held in terms of these encounters or in terms of Kiritoshi, and then upon the moment of execution, there's like a strong, right? This is all straight up breathing from Ichikukai or different types of breathing, right? It's all Misogi breathing, and you can even hear it in the way Sensei kind of like exhales really strongly or shouts. That's basically filling up the tanden with air, holding it, and then explosively releasing it. So it's supposed to be done in conjunction, obviously, with the execution of the technique, the execution of the bokken coming down. So that's one way that the breath is applicable in a dynamic situation. And even though
With your breath. So, all the spiritual nature is too strong. I don't see much freedom. Any questions? Be careful of injury. From this, you are not sensitive enough to neutralize growth.
I think Nikki has a question. Can we pause the video so she can ask that question? It's in the chat.
Certainly.
I was just wondering if it was something, especially because weapons does not involve contact so much. That's something that's a little bit easier to measure. I was just wondering, how do you measure distance, we'll say? Like, is it so easy, like you just kind of look at somebody in terms of perception? Or like, say when you're coming up to somebody, like when do you know? When do you know, in your experience?
Yeah, I would say that's a great question, and it's a difficult question. When I used to box, the boxing coach I said within 30 seconds of a fight, you know your opponent's reach, you know the distance. You have to know. That's really before contact or the first contact. So in this encounter, when you're doing kiritoshi or setting it up, you see we do it slow first. Usually do it slow from static, and then you do it slow from walking, and then with a stop. And then generally at the end, it's like from a distance with no stop whatsoever, straight into it. But it's difficult. For example, the reason in my opinion that Manolo's interactions with Sensei were better because my arms are radically long. They have very long arms, and Manolo's are more like Sensei's, even though he's shorter than me. And so this changes the distance, right? I always had to figure out the distance with Sensei. In weapons, it was a little bit more difficult for me because I was so long and he's so short compared to me. It's kind of like me working with Haudio. Our distance is a little bit different always than with Alan or somebody like Spencer. It's easier for me to negotiate it because they're closer in my size. So it is something that you kind of judge, and I wouldn't say with your mind, but you kind of see how they're stepping. And so, for example, when you're walking across a room with somebody, you're matching their steps exactly. So if I was working with you, Nikki, or I was working with Spencer, I would see what kind of steps you're taking, and I would try to match those. Because if I'm taking, or I would match it with one of my steps is equal to 2 of yours, right? I would know that. And that's something it takes a lot of practice to do. Because if you just go ahead and do it with somebody, the distance quite often is off because of either the stature of the different people, the arm length of different people, the way certain people step back a lot and some people don't, right? So they're all different factors that changes the distance. So in the beginning, you kind of do it from static is one way.
And where would you say, and this might change a lot, like where would you say that regulates in the body? Like, do you think that changes a little bit with, like, does it start at the, I mean, everything starts at the feet, but do you think that is like part of, I don't know, taking things back in the arms, or like shifting weight, or I don't know if that question makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So the question, so for example, in Kiryu-Tosh, right, like as you saw maybe in the earlier video, the target is the wrist, right?
Uh-huh.
So the distance, like when I'm moving toward you, for example, I'm presenting my wrist for you to try to hit when I'm here. You're trying to hit my wrist, right? And so I want to gauge at what point are you going to hit it, and at how much distance do I need to pull my hip back so I can dominate your wrist, right? So it can change with the hands. Meaning, if I raise my hands a lot higher, your strike is going to be a lot higher. If I keep my hands exactly on my head, the boken's just going to go there. So that is one way you can regulate it a little bit, right? Depending on how high I raise, where I am. If somebody's shorter than me and my hands are really tall, their strike is going to be different distance than if I'm working with Spencer or somebody like that, right? So it is the feet, but it's not just the feet, right? If you keep the feet equal, for example, the other thing is that in Kiryu-Tosh that some people do and some people don't do is, right? So at one point I'm moving toward the person, right? My left foot is forward and I raise the hands and I just pull my left foot back, right? Now the way that Manolo and I do it is that, like, as I'm coming to you, as I'm coming to you and my left foot comes forward, my right foot comes right behind it, like here. So that when I pull my left hip, it's sharp, like that. When other people do it, their hanmi is like this. And so when they pull their left foot back, they're stepping way back and they don't have as much power. And sometimes their boken is further away from the attack, right? So the way that Manolo and I have kind of done it is like, I'm almost stealing the distance so that when you come and I step back very little, I'm right on top of you. I've closed the distance and the tip is like right at you. Whereas when you see sometimes other people, they step back, they're almost reaching. They have this weird kind of like posture like that. So that's another thing, how to kind of, it has to do with the hip turning, right? Which has to do with the closeness of the feet together. There's a lot of factors. It's a good question. We'll work on it.
regarding to the person who does the last cut to the other who's doing the kiriotosh. I noticed that you and Manolo have your back foot, the back heel up. And my understanding is that the cut, you want it down. So I was wondering what the reason for that is.
Yeah, I know so too. When Manolo and I are both attacking.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, you know, because I was watching it wondering, like, why is that? I think it's because we're going very close ahead, and the reality is like when Sensei was executing the technique, when you execute it, your foot is fully planted. And even though I would say ideally when you're marching forward to cut somebody, your foot would be planted when you're executing the technique, you don't know exactly when you're going to take ukemi. And so at one point your back foot is a little bit off the ground, a little bit, right? It ideally, like I said, I don't think it should be. Ideally, you're like really solid like that, but it doesn't really work out like that because you're just going forward, right?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, you don't miss in kata. The tradition, missing in kata, total in kata, comes in. That's from Malaya. 2, individuals forces meet each other, total face, then it is possible. Delegating attention without killing each other. It's fine. Only a portion of the body. Only from part of the body.
We have gone past 12. I don't know if anyone was just expecting it to be 1 hour. If the conversation is interesting, we tend to kind of go over, but anyone can leave at any time. And I have a question for you, Robert.
Yeah.
In spite of the intensity of your training with Chiba Sensei, and we all know what that does to you, does to a person who trains long, any length of time with Chiba Sensei. You never stopped doing it. You have continued to do Aikido. It never put you off. It never made you want to go in a different direction.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can say without any doubt that I love Sensei, absolutely. And even though it was like being around a fire that was quite often burning very hot, that's what I wanted, I think I wanted it so badly that it didn't really matter to me, to put it, simply. It's like I just wanted to do that. I wanted to figure out how to do Aikido as well as Sensei was doing it. And so it was worth it. And when I say that he was intense and it was rough and all that, it doesn't mean that I didn't experience his compassion either. It's just that the compassion was it was within that fire, you could say. It wasn't just, it wasn't without fire. And so, no, I mean, there were some rough times that I had with Sensei, of course. I think like all of the students, you know, I don't think any of the students would say it was ever easy, but I think that we all loved him and, or do. And if, you know, I feel like he was utterly dedicated to the art and utterly dedicated to transmitting it. And that kind of dedication inspires one to be able to receive a kind of difficult teaching. And I think about him every day and think about many of the things he told me every day. So I don't regret going through anything that I went through with Sensei, not one bit. But as I said, it wasn't always easy. And at the time, of course, I may have not had that perspective that I have now, right?
Yeah, thank you. I identify with what you're saying.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Well, it takes fire to forge the sword.
Yes, indeed.
So
Yes,
I have a question, not quite related, but sort of related, because you mentioned, you know, transmitting Aikido, and I think the whole Aikido community is feeling that maybe we need to get more new students into the art. And I think for those of us who have trained long enough, stayed in it and still continue with it because we see a value in Aikido. But do you think there's anything you do in particular when you come across a completely new student? Do you do anything in particular to keep them engaged or to engage them into Aikido? Because I don't know that we need to be taught. Well, I think we want to be shown or led in terms of how to deepen our practice and everything like that. But maybe a new person who doesn't have the understanding, do you do anything or try to do anything in particular to help them see what it is that is in Aikido?
I think I do more than I used to. I used to not explain anything. Literally, I was like the Sensei, I didn't say anything. But that being said, I'm not trying to convince anybody of the merit or value of Aikido so much. I do try to point things out to them. But I think there's a kind of a mistake in the current martial arts culture of what Aikido is and what it isn't. And the Aikido people are trying to defend themselves, particularly in relation to like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or mixed martial arts, and like in some kind of way apologize for it or try to, you know what I mean? So I think Aikido has an inherent value in and of itself. It's not like a mixed martial art. It's not, I would not even say it's a fighting system whatsoever. I would say it's a system of martial movement, a dynamic system, a way of moving martially, but it is not a fighting. And I don't try to convince people of that. And sometimes I do try to make that distinction. And I think if the instructor is really dynamic and they're very passionate about what they're doing and they're joyful in a way and intense, I think if you have all that, the students that want that will stay for that. The students that really want to do something like a pure fighting, and sometimes people come to me and say, I want to learn this. I say, great, you should go here. I have exactly the right name of a good jiu-jitsu or a good fight instructor. I've done some of it. And I feel like I know what Aikido truly is and what it truly isn't. And it shouldn't be everything. And it's really not for everybody, meaning that like some people are like, I want to do something like, you know, high kicks. I was like, okay, well, you should do Taekwondo, you know, or something else like that. Or I want to wrestle all the time on the ground. I said, okay, great, you should do BJJ or whatever. So, but I said, if you're looking for something really dynamic and that it's not competitive, but it's still dynamic and strong at the same time and has a strong element of trying to transcend kind of subject and object through non-competition, and you want to really work your body in creative ways, then stay with me, you know, and stay with Aikido, and you will find something. So I think it's kind of a fine line between like running after people and trying to convince people of the inherent value of something. But I really think that's the same with anything. I mean, somebody could come to you and study pottery or painting, and they might be like, well, I don't know, I don't really like working with clay. You say, well, okay, go do something else, you know. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Maybe as a corollary to that, just curious about how you see the future of Aikido and how you see things evolving, and what, you know, recommendations or suggestions you have for, you know, dojos around the world to kind of help, you know, create additional vibrancy in the art.
Well, I think, like I was saying, primarily Aikido has to be known for what it is and for what it isn't. And then, you know, this argument that all young people today want to do mixed martial arts or something, it's just simply not true. I have a lot of students that are not interested in me putting my elbow in the face on the ground, or, you know, or wrestling around. They want to do something else like Aikido. So I think it is a question of like really kind of finding those people that want that, like, and explaining what Aikido is and what it's not. And they said to completely let go of any kind of defensive idea about, well, Aikido is, you know, is the same as like boxing or jiu-jitsu, or it's not. It's simply not. And I would be the first person to say that, you know, that it's not meant for competitive fighting, but it is meant for self-transformation or bringing out what you really are. Just like Zen, I would say it's actually not very different than Zen. It's just a different way of kind of doing it. And I think that aspect should be kind of brought out more. And I think, especially for where we are in the world right now with I mean, like I said, there's protests in New York, there's protests in Minneapolis. There is a world that is divided based on race and gender and all sorts of other things. And Aikido can be a real tool, in my opinion, to transcend that. But if it's constantly trying to defend itself and say, well, you know, but if I punch you like this and I do that and then you do this and then I don't do that, well, that won't work. That's like such a low-level conversation in my mind. I'm not saying that Aikido should become at the same time like dancey or like no-touch Aikido or anything like that. I'm not for that either. It should be dynamic. It should be strong. It should condition the body. It should have a martial spirit. But at the same time, you know, as most of all you know, Sensei is a deeply spiritual religious man that studied religious texts for 2 hours a day. It was not just about like Riminage. And so I think a lot of people in Aikido are missing that aspect. They're missing the idea of breathing, which is really demonstrated very clearly by Chiba Sensei doing all this Boken work. They're missing the idea by defending it, and they're missing the idea without seeing the connection to a deeper kind of transcending of ego, right? And I'm also at the same time, I would not say that if somebody wants to do a competitive martial art or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that you can't transcend the ego through competition either. I don't think you can say that Aikido is the end all either. But for the people that like find this art beautiful and attractive, I think, okay, let's promote it like that. Let's have dynamic Aikido. The instructors, in my opinion, should be in shape. They should be like working really hard to keep their shape, their fitness. They should be dynamic. They should be compassionate, working on themselves, and they will attract people. So I don't buy the argument that Aikido is losing young people because they're all doing something else. It's not being explained correctly, I would say. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's my opinion.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear, Robert.
Yeah, I have a lot of faith in Aikido and a lot of faith in what we're doing. I think it's just like anything, things kind of come and go and people get into this and they get out of that. But I feel like for the people like Crane Sensei, myself and other people here are in it for like the longer haul things, then it's fine. Aikido is popular. It's not popular. It's popular. Like, same thing with yoga. Sometimes it's like this. Sometimes it doesn't really matter. We just keep doing our practice and trying to be creative and try to keep our fitness and dynamic spirit
Great. Well, thank you. I think that might be a good point at which to close the meeting. And I just really want to thank you very much, Robert, for sharing yourself in this way. That's good for everyone to hear, and it's inspiring. And I think we all need some inspiration right now in our practices and in our dojos. So,
well, thank you for having me, Sensei.
You're welcome.
I wish you all of you all the best, and yeah, keep your spirits up. It's a difficult time, but this is the test, or one of them. Right?
Another
Okay,
test.
thank you.
Hey, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good to see
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.